you reinventors out there. This is Lesley Jane Seymour, and wow, have I got a conversation for you today. I have got somebody who, has suffered great loss, but has figured out how to rebound by using art to help her get there. We have all experienced grief in our lives. Some people do better than others. Some people find ways out. Some people find ways around. You don't have to be a dog lover or to have had children to understand what she's talking about. And I'm just so thrilled that we have the chance to speak with her and how she reinvented her life after the loss of a child and how she became a writer many more times. And I also want to just tell you, if you're interested in more about reinvention, pop over to CoveyClub.com. You know that I own CoveyClub.com as well as this podcast. And at CoveyClub.com, we have all kinds of free information for you where you can download checklists, guides, articles. We have articles on grief. We have articles on everything you could imagine written by the best writers in the world. Come over, check all that out. And we will help you with your reinvention, whatever it is. So here we are with Marianne Leone. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She is an actress, screenwriter, and essayist. Her essays have appeared in the Boston Globe, Lit Hub, Plowshares, Post Road, Bark Magazine, Coastal Living, Solstice, and elsewhere. She is the author of 2 memoirs, Jessie and Ma Speaks Up. She had a recurring role on HBO's The Sopranos and has appeared in films by David O. Russell, Larry David, John Sayles, Nancy Savoca, and Martin Scorsese. Leone and her husband live outside of Boston. And the book that we're talking about is 5 Dog Epiphany, How a Quintet of Badass Bichons Retrieved Our Joy. And that's by Akashic Books. And it comes out September 3rd. And I hope that you will pick one up. I have to read a lot of books for the podcast, and sometimes it's a little bit of a trial, and I kind of skip through them and find the things that I have to listen to, or, just to have my notes ready. I ended up reading the entire book, couldn't put it down. It was my whole weekend, and beautifully done, brought me to tears. It's really not just about dogs. The dogs are key players, but it's really about life and love and loss and recovery. And she's a beautiful writer, so you will totally enjoy it. So here is Marianne Leone. So Marianne, so fabulous to meet you. As I said, I love the whole setup with all the red glasses, red lipstick, red couch, red cherries. And I even see something else way in the background. Very well done. And the book was amazing. I have to say, had my tissues out at the end. Very beautifully done and just so beautifully written. We have an awful lot of listeners who are big book readers. And all I can say is, yes, it's about loss, but it is so tenderly done and beautifully written that I'm just so thrilled to talk to you. So maybe let's start a little bit for people who don't know you, haven't read your other books. Give us a little bit about your personal reinvention, since we're talking about restart, reinvention. Give us a little bit about your background.
Well, my background is I grew up, I am first generation. My parents were immigrants from Italy, and I grew up in an area 7 miles outside of Boston that was a working class area where everyone was from the same little village in Italy. And so it was mostly Irish, Italian, and French Canadians. And my mother was a very strong force in my life. I wrote a memoir about her. I first wrote a memoir about my son, Jesse.
Yeah, I want to read both of those. Yeah, I saw that.
We lost Jesse at the age of 17. He was born prematurely, 10 weeks early. I've had an interesting life.
You really have had a I don't know whether the word interesting, but a trial
maybe in the
of
Chinese
life.
curse sense of the word.
Yeah. But you're such an inspiration because you've been able to get over things and through things that people normally think are stoppers. So keep continuing. Yeah. So he died at 17.
So
Yeah.
I have written all my life, but I became an actress first. I discovered acting when I was in college, and which nobody wanted me to go to, by the way. The whole thing was like, you're just going to get married, so why do you want to go to college? And it was like, I'm going to college. And
Yes.
you know, so I worked my way through, and I I took an acting class, and I thought, this is better than sex. I'm doing this. So
God, I can't even imagine acting. I did children's theater in high school, and that was as far as
okay.
I got. But what I always said about publishing and being an editor in chief of a magazine is that it was acting without having to actually be an actor. You got to do all the stuff, but you didn't have to go on stage and perform. That was what
I
was
hear
really
you.
great.
There are places where it totally dovetails, but yes. And so I went to New York, and with my then boyfriend, we broke up, and I took this acting class. And I got it free in exchange for keeping the very long waiting list. And one night, this guy came in, who they brought in from a mid-level class, and they said, he's starting tonight. I said, no way, because I have this list. And it turned out to be Chris Cooper, who became my husband. We were given a very tough scene, which was a mark of respect from our teacher, whom we both worshiped and adored. And we spent, we were in our early 20s, so we spent every minute like talking in parking, talking in diners and working on the scene. And then we continued to see each other, but he took so long. He was like the shy boy from the Midwest. And I had a gay roommate. I remember saying, is your gaydar going off? Because this guy not made a move. What's going on here? And because believe me, acting class in your 20s, oh my God.
Right.
Anyway,
Crazy, crazy. So, and you did some really great stuff. Talk a little bit about that so people know, because
well, then I did this. The first thing I did was I did this student film with Nancy Savoca, who then went on to make True Love with Annabella Sciorra and Ron Eldard. And I worked with her. I did 3 of her movies and 2 of her student films. And through them, I met Maggie Renzi and John Sayles. John is a fantastic director and writer, and that's how my husband got his first job. So we became a clan, more or less. But in order to get work, what I did have to reinvent myself there, as I went with my girlfriend and 2 guys, and we became a comedy troupe. We figured an agent would rather have a drink and laugh in a comedy club than come and see Macbeth on Avenue D, right?
right.
So we called ourselves the Paranoids. We did sketch comedy. It was the most
Paranoid.
terrifying thing I ever did. I mean, walking up onto the stage at Catch a Rising Star,
I remember that place. I used to go.
we were
Oh
asked
my
to be
God.
regulars at Catch a Rising
Oh
Star,
my
but
God. I
it
loved
was
it.
so scary because, I mean, you're going up in front of a New York audience at midnight,
They're
right?
tough, and
And
that's a tough crowd.
and you've got a 4th wall, so you can't even engage with them, right? So the first thing we heard was, show us your tits. But
Oh, jeez.
we
Oh
ignored
man.
that and did our sketches. And we were asked to be regulars. And after that, we were able to get an agent. A producer found us, put us on Theater Row. We had a show. I wrote constantly with everybody else. We wrote sketch comedy. And that was the first reinvention, was doing that. And I got work from that afterwards. But I stopped acting after I had my son 10 weeks early, because we couldn't both be away. And my husband his career had really taken off, and he was working. And so I started writing more. I sold scripts. I was unproduced, but HBO bought my script. And, I started writing, and Jesse was also responsible for reinventing me into a warrior mother,
Talk a little bit
because
about that. Yeah.
we moved when we were in Hoboken, which is where we had moved, because we were living in a 6th floor walk up in Hell's Kitchen. That kind of wouldn't work with a new baby. So
Oh man, 6th floor. I had a 4th floor, and I thought that was bad.
we
Okay.
were in the best shapes of our lives, though.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. Carrying the babies up and down the
Oh
stairs
my
like a
God.
stack of
Yeah.
grapefruits. Yeah.
Yeah. But we moved to Hoboken, and New York and New Jersey had very low rates of inclusion of kids with disabilities. And it was clear that Jesse who had had a grade 4 cerebral hemorrhage on the 3rd day of his life, had cerebral palsy. So it was like the research I could do before the internet was
Right.
telling me that Massachusetts, my home state, was better than the federal average. So we moved to this place.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's why you moved. Okay.
Yeah. So we moved to this place that is 37 miles from Boston, and it's where my aunt and uncle lived and where I spent summers as a kid. So I have family there. I have friends that I've known since I was 10 years old. In fact, I still swim with them. We call ourselves the
Uh,
bags. We go
I
whenever the
love
tide is
that.
high.
I
But
love it.
but so then when we go to get Jesse into school, we come up against this special ed director who I
Oh,
find
I can't
out
believe what she said to you or he said to you in
he
the book.
he
He,
said, why should we spend money on kids
oh,
like this? They don't give anything
haunts
to
me,
society.
haunts me, haunts me.
So I was like, never mess with an Italian mother. I will kill you. Kill you. I said to my husband, he's getting a dead horse's head in his bed, and I'm going to organize all the parents, and he's not going to have a job when I'm done with him. So there were 6 lawsuits that year. He
Wow.
did not have his contract renewed. I know he has a doll of me somewhere with pins in it, but I don't care. And Jesse went to school and became a straight A student, and was
A
on the
poet?
and a poet. And his poetry has been praised by Pulitzer Prize winners. And
Oh,
he, I think one of his poems is in the book that I
there's
sent.
a yes,
There are a
there's a
few.
couple of your
Yeah.
references
Yes.
in the book.
And in my
Very
first book, I included all his poems. But he was our true north. He was the best thing that ever happened to both of us, even with all of the challenges that we went through. Jesse traveled all over the world. I mean, he
Yeah,
was the most
I was interested by that, that you said that. You took him to Italy, you took him everywhere, and
everywhere.
he yeah,
He
okay.
was the most sophisticated kid in his little classroom there. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I was like, Jesse, you've never even flown commercial. Yeah, I mean, you've never flown coach. But at any rate, he was someone who taught us what was really important. And I will be forever grateful. And I say this with all my heart. He was, I mean, I almost died after we lost Jesse
I can
suddenly.
imagine.
You
Oh,
know,
yes. What you didn't, you were a little oblique. I don't know if you want to go into it a little
well, what
bit more,
happened
but
was
you didn't really describe what it was that you
what
had.
happened
Some,
was his neurologist said, to put it simply, his brain told his heart to stop. It was
it was just one
unexpected.
night you went into the, yeah, like every night
The
was the
next
same.
morning,
And then
the
the
next
next morning
morning.
he was gone. Yeah, just
Yes.
out of the
And
blue.
yes. And it was shocking. And there's this book, The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh, yes.
So that's
Yes.
what happened. I was dying after he died. I grew a tumor that was the size of him at birth.
Holy moly. Yeah, you were very oblique in there. You didn't say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all described in the first book, Jesse.
Okay. All
Yes.
right. Okay.
And so I was dying. And the thing with the dogs that happened
Yeah,
was
yeah, because that's what's so
this,
that and I
this
have to tell
book,
you,
5 Dog
yeah,
Epiphany.
yeah, no, I got it here. Right here. It was
Yeah,
fabulous. I could not put it down literally. And I'm not a dog person. I'm a cat person. So
I love cats too.
I was
But
like, all right, I'll read about dogs. I just, dogs are okay. I know they sell, so they're on the cover. Whenever people were having trouble with magazine sales, they would put a dog on the cover and it
oh
would
my
sell.
God.
Yeah, no, it was like an old thing. And I was like, my sister had a Bichon and was very crazy for the Bichon. So I, of course, had to tell her all about this. But I really,
I researched what kind of dog would be good for a kid using a wheelchair. And
so
Jesse,
talk about that. Yeah.
he
And
was
the
desperate to
Bichons
get
you
it.
picked up. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was desperate to get a dog, and he was nonverbal, but he blurted dog to Santa with every fiber of his being. It wasn't cognitive, it was muscular.
Right.
A lot of people can use their mouths who don't have brain damage and
Right.
just keep on using their mouths. But
Right.
Jesse, it was a real struggle for him to get words out. And when he told Santa Claus dog, I said to Chris, he's getting a dog.
That's it.
There was no.
But
And
these were not ordinary dogs. You weren't like going to the breeder and getting the
oh no,
best
but the first
dog
dog
and
we did
yeah,
we did commit dog heinousness by
right.
going to a
Puppy mill.
dodgy pet store because I didn't know
Didn't
any
know
better.
anything. Right.
This was way back in the 90s. And so we get Goody and he becomes his first sibling and they are just bonded. And it was the most beautiful thing. And I mean, I was actually jealous of Goody because he saw Jesse afterwards. I was convinced because he used to run into the Jesse's room and stop short and then wag his tail like, hi, hi. And there was nobody there. And I was both jealous and thinking, what is he seeing?
Mm,
But they were, he slept with Jesse. They were just fur siblings the whole time.
first siblings. Yeah.
And it was when I was recovering from the removal of the not Jesse that I was like some neurasthenic Victorian lady on a sofa watching reality shows because that was all I could handle. And I I started looking at Pet Finder, and I felt like I was cheating on Goody, but he was gone. He died the night before the surgery to remove the not Jesse, and we saw Lucky and Frenchie, and I had to convince my husband, who was like, "Are you insane?" But we we
Right.
uh, we did it. We went through. We had some lady come in and vet us at our house, and we got the rescue dogs. And this was our first pair of bonded pair. They were a bonded pair, so they were kind of like cool without us or with us. But it was better to have two dogs because with Goody, we'd go out and he'd be at the top of the stairs like, "Where
Right.
are you? Oh my God!"
Right.
Uh,
Right.
you know,
Right.
so,
Right.
so it
But
was kind
interesting that you decided to take rescues because they are
of.
not set up to be easy. They're challenging. They have issues. They have
But of course,
pasts,
we had been
right?
through every issue in the world dealing with fighting the school, I mean,
Aha. So you were
yeah,
ready to fight again in that
totally.
way.
And the idea of bringing back a creature that had been damaged by abuse to joy, to restoring that joy, it was like a double thing that we were doing together. We were finding our joy, and they were coming back to essential dog joy, by rehoming them, by telling them that they're safe and that they're never going to be abused again. And so it became, they lived with us 13 years. They died during the lockdown. They were 17 each, Lucky and
Wow.
Frenchie. And
Wow.
then I started looking at Pet Finder again at Christmas Day. He was like, "I'm still mourning Frenchie," and I was like, "Yeah, but I see little TT with her smile, and she was even more abused than Lucky and Frenchie. She was in a cage for 6 years, and the
Yeah,
guy
it's
let the harness
horrible.
grow
You
into her
said grew
flesh."
into her flesh. How did they get that out? You didn't describe that.
I
They were
think
able to
they
get it out somehow?
Yes, I think she came to us and it was gone,
It was
but
gone. Okay,
it
because
was
that was
gone,
such a horrible image.
but when you went to pick her up, she was a fear biter because of the scarring
Yes.
there,
Right.
and,
Right.
nobody was adopting her because of that, and she did draw blood from Chris the first
Right.
day,
Right.
but
Right.
then she fell madly in love with him, like, even today, if he even looks at her, she shimmies like Marilyn Monroe and wants some like it hot. I mean, I'm like, "Excuse me, I feed you? I'm the one." But, but they're both of them, TT and Sugar, are just joy. I mean, they're a joy to have. They're really, and also Sugar was never abused. So she's kind of a teacher to TT. Like, this is how you play with a ball, or this is, this is how you enjoy life. And so they'll learn, she learned from her. So every day is they make us laugh every single day, and they're
Right.
comfort. They really are a comfort, and we're returning it back to them. And I just love it. They take us on these long walks. I mean, we weren't used to, we had elderly dogs. So I went to see my primary physician. I had lost 15 pounds. She panicked. She
Because
thought something
she's,
was
oh,
wrong.
something's
She
wrong
was
with
like,
you.
yes.
But
She
you were
was like,
actually just getting in shape. That's hilarious.
she
How
was like,
funny.
She was like, "Do you have a scale?" I was like, "No." She was like, Would you perseverate if you got one?" I said, "Yeah, probably." So I said to Chris, "Get a scale." I guess she wants it. She was like, "You should be eating peanut butter, taking scoop." Thanks to
Oh
her, I'm now
man.
addicted to peanut butter. But
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
Chris got on the scale and he had lost 10 pounds. So
Wow.
it was the
Would you
dog.
would you talk a little bit about where animals fit in? Because we talk a lot about, I mean, people may not lose a child, but they have empty nest and that
Right.
the change in the family is huge. We have lockdowns, we have And laughably, I became the person during COVID, which was, you're lonely, get a cat. So I got everybody a cat. Like 5 people got cats during that. And it really changed their lives. I mean, it made a huge difference. Of course, it's not going to fill the place of a
Oh, no,
human who's left
no,
us. But there is something, and you
that's right.
really captured that there. There is something. I mean, many times, my kids are all grown and flown. And, my kids laugh because I say to them, my cat Leo definitely takes a lot of the place of them. And I
Yeah.
don't see him as a cat. Like, it's very hard for me to see him as a cat. I see him as a child. I see him as a toddler
Well,
of
that's
like about
interesting
two or
because
three, I
I
can't,
don't. I see
you
two
don't.
cats like a full-grown woman in a
A
weird way.
woman. Oh,
I really
hilarious.
do.
I see a little toddler.
I see
Oh,
her
hilarious.
as, I
It's
don't
a
see her as,
woman.
I see her as like,
That's
wiser than that,
hilarious.
wiser than that. It's
Oh,
like,
wow.
it's really interesting. And the same with Sugar. It's, I don't know, they seem, and girl dogs are different. I had boy dogs always, and these girls are like, they started out as bullies, and believe me, I was bullied by them. And now, even now, they're very like aware of everything you're doing. Whereas Lucky and Frenchie were not like that. The boy dogs, they were kind of like, yeah, they were into each other. Whereas these girls are like, wait, she's going to bed. I see she's got the glass of water. Let's go. Hurry up. They're more like very attuned to everything you're doing. So they seem like adults in a weird way,
An
and they
adult,
are.
so adults in your house. Okay, that's interesting. No, I didn't, mine are like children for some reason. Maybe
Yeah,
cats are not as developed.
oh, I don't know about that. I think they're very smart and they're very aware, aren't they? They're, yeah, yeah.
He acts like a little baby. So, talk a little bit also. I was really intrigued by, first of all, one of the things I want to say is that you're writing about how the dogs appear and how they are, responsive in your life and all of that, which could get very tedious and repetitive, is not that way at all. Like, every time I'm like, can she describe this in a different way? You do. It's
Thank you.
really very, no, really, really tough. That's tough stuff. And but beautifully done each time. I was really moved also by the sort of spiritual.
Black. And a door opens from the other side of the piazza, and the risen Christ is there, and she runs to him. Not really. The men run carrying her, and the black robes fly off, and she's wearing green for Speranza, for hope. And it's this really moving. Anyway, so we're walking through the deserted piazza now because it's not Easter. And I'm like, where's that music coming from? And Chris says, it's your bag. And my phone turns on and starts playing Bella Figlia dell'amore from Rigoletto, which is Beautiful Daughter of Love. And I felt like that's either my mother or, it was just amazing. So I've had lots of things like that happen to me. And I'm tuned in. You know
You're
what I mean?
tuned in. Well,
I'm-
I think that when you're tuned in, there's a lot that comes to us.
Right, right,
Definitely.
right.
Talk a little bit about the hawks and the fox.
Yeah.
I
So
was like freaked out. I was freaked out by the hawks, and then that picture of the fox that you have in the book is
I
like,
know,
he is smiling.
I
There is
know.
no doubt about it. I mean, I know people talk
Because
about
I left
dogs
bones for
smiling.
him every day, and I was kind of seducing him to join my pack, but it didn't work. But it's my dream. Believe me, I have foxes all over my Instagram account. It's like, oh, why can't I why can't I groom a fox to join my pack? But it hasn't happened yet. But the hawk thing happened when I have this friend, Maureen Hancock, who's a medium. So our caregiver for Jessie Brandy, who we loved like a daughter, said, I made this appointment for you with this psychic who talks to the parents of children that have gone. I was like, oh, she could Google us and find out whatever she wants to know. I mean, Chris is a public figure, blah, blah. And she said, well, I made the appointment. And so I say to Chris, do you want to go? He's like, I don't have any questions, immediately afraid. And I said, well, will you come with me? So he comes with me, and I meet Maureen, and she doesn't recognize me from The Sopranos, which is good. And she doesn't recognize Chris. She's like a mom, a soccer mom, with kids, young kids. And she starts saying his name began with a J. He used a wheelchair, and I'm thinking, could have Googled, could have Googled, could have Googled. But before that, I had been seeing these hawks, and I had somehow made them an avatar of Jesse, because this is what you do in the madness of grief. And she said, he said he comes to you as a bird, a strong bird, a hawk.
She said a
I,
hawk.
that's when I sat up. And before that, I had had lunch with one of Jesse's tutors, and I saw this man in the restaurant, and he wasn't at all like Jesse, except he was like an older, mentally challenged, it was obvious, man who waved at me, and his eyes, some just looked like my son's. And I was so shaken by it that I said to Chris, it was like I had seen Jesse. I don't understand what that was. So Maureen says, do you have any questions? And I say, yeah, I just want to say, not good looking, mentally challenged man. And she said, oh, he said to tell you I locked eyes with you that time.
Oh my God, you just gave me goosebumps. Oh
And
my
that's when I
God.
was like, okay, so
Oh
we
my
became
Lord.
friends. And I actually, she wrote a book called The Medium Next Door, and she's pretty well known around here in New England. She
Wow.
doesn't charge parents for talking about their children. And I don't know though, I'm still a skeptic. I don't know what it is. I have no
Right.
clue
Right.
I just finished Sebastian Junger's book in my
Oh, I just
dying,
read
and it's
about that. I
fantastic.
just read about
It's
that.
really
Yeah.
good for skeptics, because
I'm a
he's like,
skeptic.
okay,
Yeah.
what happened to me that I am a skeptic? My father was a physicist skeptic, and he came to me when I was officially dead. I had to read this because why is all the strange stuff happening? You know what I mean? So there's
Right.
no real answer. Nobody knows, but
Right. Oh,
anyway,
so just as, because we're almost at the end, believe it or not,
oh my God.
for parents who are suffering through what you suffered through, what is, what is your message to them, or people who are going through a similar kind of loss like that? What are the pointers for them to move beyond? Because I'm amazed at how you've moved beyond. I know it
I know
wasn't
that
easy and it's been
for
many
me,
years.
it helped to art helped. I mean, it helped that I'm an actor. It helped that I'm a writer, but you don't have to be a professional writer for this to help you. I have spoken at memoir classes, for example, at the Duxbury Senior Center. People, if you want to write about this, it could be a good thing. Now, I don't say cathartic because people always kept asking me, like, was it cathartic? And then I looked up the word because it was driving me insane. Why do you keep asking me? And it means purge. And I haven't purged my son like a Soviet purge. It wasn't cathartic, but it is helpful to just relive those moments. I felt like I was reliving all these beautiful moments with Jesse when I wrote the book about him. So I think it could be helpful to just go to go to a writing place where you can gather with other people and start writing your memories. It can help you. I'm not saying look for publishing or anything like that.
Just for yourself,
Just for yourself.
journaling for yourself.
For me, acting and writing comes from the same place of truth. If it doesn't come from a place of truth, it's not worth doing. That's my only caveat, is that it has to come from a place of truth, and the same with
Wonderful.
acting, right? I mean, I had the experience, I know you have to close soon, but I had the scary experience of having my television son die on The Sopranos, something I had dreaded horribly.
Oh
I said to
man.
Chris, I said, oh my God, I'm so afraid they're going to kill Michael Imperioli. And then they did. And then I had to be in front of his casket, fall to my knees, and have a primal scream. Well, I fainted on set. I mean,
Oh,
I passed out because it was too much. Like, my mother had died. Everybody in my family had died. My mother died 6 months before Jesse, then my aunt, who was like my mother, then my uncle, who was like my father, all within the space of a year. So
oh
I
my
fainted.
goodness.
And I will say this about beloved Jim Gandolfini. He tried to make me
Oh,
laugh because I was so,
hope everybody will read it. It's way more than dogs don't do it. The dogs are fabulous, but it's really not about dogs.
thank
It's
you.
about life and love and grief and how you move beyond that.
And please tell people that some of it's funny
Oh,
because,
there's a lot that it's beautiful. I would say it's funny, but it's also beautiful. I mean, it's
thank
really
you.
beautifully written. I mean, let me tell you, there are a lot of books I have to read because I got to read them, and
Yeah.
it's a trial. And
Yes.
this you're a beautiful writer. So thank
Thank
you
you
very
so
much
much.
for doing it. I appreciate it.
I appreciate this, Lesley. Thank you so much.
So I hope that podcast was helpful to you all. I hope you learned something. I think it's very interesting that Heather Heather knows that it's just this feeling that a lot of us have, that we get to that point where it feels like burnout. It may be burnout, it may be something else that really motivates us to actually look for change. As you know, I'm all about change. CoveyClub is all about change. And it may not be reinvention, it may be a rethinking, it may be a restarting, a reimagining, a rethinking. It doesn't have to be a giant change. But what we do at CoveyClub is we do help you create change. And that's the magic of what we do. So if you like the podcast, please give us some stars in the reviews, give us a comment or two. And if you're serious about your reinvention, mosey on over to coveyclub.com, where you're going to find all kinds of free resources, guides, downloads, checklists, everything you could possibly want about reinvention and midlife. We cover midlife in general. But we really do focus on reinvention. And if you are really serious about creating change in your life, get together with some of the fabulous women at CoveyClub, because that is what we do. We say we hold a space for you while you figure out what's next. So take care, and I'll talk to you next time.